Welcome back to another episode of the OG podcast. And today I am going to talk you through moving from a scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset. And first, when you make this shift, not only do you open up so much more opportunity, but you also have the ability to open up so much more energy, because when you're able to see your full potential and really actually expand your vision of what's possible for yourself, you get a light reignited within you, a fire of drive and motivation. So if you've been struggling to really get motivated, get driven, get committed to a better future, this episode is for you. Now, we all fall prey to scarcity mindset, and scarcity mindset is a lot of our environment, and it starts in childhood when you're compared and you're measured and you're ranked and you're constantly focusing on where you're not enough or where you're different or where you're broken or where you need to be fixed. You're in this percentile for height, you're in this percentile for weight. And it happens over and over again where we're conditioned to compare ourselves to others. And through that conditioning, naturally, our brain gravitates towards where we lack. So scarcity mindset is any focus on lack, limitation, not enough. So it could be there's not enough opportunity, there's not enough time, there's not enough motivation, there's not enough money, there's not enough connections, there's not enough just inspiration, not enough clarity. I see people stay stuck in scarcity energy for their entire life because it's a belief system. And our thoughts that we repeatedly think create beliefs that hardwire into our subconscious mind that drive 95% of our decisions, whether we are aware of it or not. So the first key to really moving from a scarcity mindset into a mindset of abundance is to acknowledge the scarcity and see where it exists in your patterns, in your life. And where are you feeling like you don't have enough? And how can you shift that story? Because you cannot create abundance from a mindset of scarcity. And I've seen this thousands of times. I've helped so many high achievers over the last decade. I could see two people take the exact same action. One is from a mindset of abundance and one is from a mindset of scarcity, and they get dramatically different results because the energy behind it has a belief and a conviction and a motivation and a desire that's more potent, more fierce, more solid than the person that's just doing it. But deep down, they don't believe it's ever going to happen for them. And deep down, they don't really feel that they're worthy of it. And deep down, they're just waiting to be disappointed and not be too hopeful because they don't want to be let down. And so when you're in a scarcity mindset, and we all fall to scarcity, the challenge is when you become so smart for your own good and you do a lot of this mindset work, you tend to disassociate from scarcity. No, I don't have scarcity. I'm good. I don't deal with scarcity. And those are the folks that have the most work to do because they're refusing to even acknowledge that scarcity exists, because without scarcity, there is no abundance. So they both must exist in order to work. So at that point, when you start to think, well, where am I experiencing scarcity in my life? And without judgment, just hold space for it. See what comes up. Just sit with the question. Don't rush to the answer. Allow your body to lead you. Your body knows where you feel that contracting energy, that stress, that anxiety, that fear. Where do you feel scarcity in your life right now? And where do you feel scarcity in your body? Is it in the solar plexus? Is it in the gut? Is it that tense feeling? Do you contract your shoulders? How does it show up for you? And allow yourself to just acknowledge and feel the scarcity, because it is valid. And many of you out there listening are genuinely dealing with an experience of scarcity. And you can't fight that feeling. And that is genuinely your current reality and belief. So before you can shift and flip a switch and go to this positive mindset, you first have to acknowledge and accept what you're feeling and what's true for you. Because all of us can get to a place of abundance, which is really rooted on one core belief. I have everything I need. You may not have everything you want, but you have everything you need. If you've got a roof over your head, you've got clean water, you've got food in the refrigerator, you're healthy, you feel safe, you're abundant. And you can always start really small. When you get to building that energy of abundance, you have to start small. You have to start with the most basic things that you can appreciate. Because many of you out there, if you've been operating in scarcity for years and you're trying to break these patterns, that's okay. It takes time, especially if you come from environments where that is the mindset, where everybody's in fight or flight survival mode. Everybody's competing. Everybody's feeling like you're operating off a zero-sum game. And trust me, I've come from environments like that. Most of the planet still operates under that conditioning of competing, comparing, and scarcity. And they feel that if someone else is winning, that takes away from that. And that belief system creates so much more separation than it does real collaboration. You'll notice as you get to the top, there's collaboration. As you're down at the bottom, there's competing and backstabbing and all the nasty things that happen when you're operating from a place of fear and scarcity. So it's not until you can change the internal dialogue that's feeding this belief and this fear that you can rise up and move from a place of belief, conviction, and abundance. And abundance is really the belief system is I have everything I need. I have access to an abundance of opportunity, an abundance of love, an abundance of support, an abundance of connection, an abundance of energy. And we all can start to harness and cultivate that energy as we start to become more conscious of our thought patterns and choosing our beliefs consciously. Because you can always find two truths. You can find that there's an abundance of opportunity for you and that you have an abundance of love, abundance of support, abundance of belonging, abundance of connection. And you have scarcity of money, scarcity of opportunity, scarcity of connection, scarcity of support. You can find two truths. You can choose to support the evidence. It's all about what you choose to focus on. And so you really got to start to challenge your thinking and saying, well, what if I do have an abundance? And start to say, well, what if I actually have more support than I'm realizing? What if I'm more connected than I'm willing to acknowledge? And what if I could just sit with that new reality and allow that to come true for me? And what if I could allow myself to focus on what I do have versus what's not happening and what I don't have, and comparing myself to those that I'm only seeing the highlight reel of their life? And what if I could sit here and be grateful for all that I've been through, all that I am, all that I've become? What if I could sit here and be so grateful for all that I have surrounding in me and all the love and the people and the support and what I've created up until this point? What if I could sit and be so proud of the person that I've become because of everything I've been through? So it's such a different energy when we start to feed that we are more than enough versus where we're lacking. And it's these patterns of perfectionism that are constantly feeding to us from society, from school, from parents, from family, from whatever. Areas where we're able to look where we're not enough, and we continue to look and dissect and criticize. And it's that self-criticism that gets us to shrink from our goals and gets us to think smaller. And abundance is really about giving yourself that energy of worthiness and more than enough. And how can you really pour into yourself and learn to love all parts of yourself so that you can step up and grab the abundance of opportunity that are available to you and to all of us. Because I truly believe to my core that God wants us all to have abundance, and we are all worthy of abundance. But we must believe we're worthy in order to claim it, and in order to step up and fearlessly go after what we truly desire. And somewhere along the line, we fall prey to the slippery slope of scarcity that I'm lucky to have a job, or I'm lucky to be in this relationship, or and we start to rationalize settling for mediocrity in our relationships and our connections, in what we choose to do and how we treat ourselves and what we choose to settle for in our life. And so somewhere along the line, we convince ourselves that this is just as good as it gets. And that's when you know scarcity has taken over, because abundance is about continuous evolution, expansion. So we now know what it feels like and looks like to be in scarcity. It's fear-based, it's competition-based, it's zero-sum game. If you're winning, I'm losing. It's charged off everyone operating off not enough, lack, or limitation. Then when you shift over to abundance, it's the opposite. You feel flow. It's not a contracting energy. It's light. It's expansive. It's relaxed. It's in a receiving energy, because you don't feel like you need to fight, and you don't need to compare and compete, because you already have everything you need. There's not this focal point of comparison. It's a focal point of gratitude, of joy, and fulfillment. And it's an energy, it's a mindset, it's a perspective. And we all have access to tap into that energy and that frequency right now. And it's only from that frequency of abundance that you can absolutely create even more abundance, because you're operating from that place that it's more from a heart-centered, purpose-driven, joyful place, and it's an intention, and it's not an attachment. So the biggest key difference to how someone moves that's in an abundance mindset versus a scarcity, it's the way that someone in abundance is not attached to any one outcome. And you know that you're in abundance because you're fine either way. You're not worried or trying to over manufacture, calculate, or control any dynamic. You're not trying to manipulate. You're not trying to over dominate and overstep boundaries. You're really in flow. You're in ease. You're in a level of trust. It's a level of surrender, because you know there's not any one person, place, or thing that's determining your future. That's you who has that power. That's you who has the ability to create abundance and access that abundance from any one point in time. And this all starts with you knowing that you are capable of creating abundance, and you are worthy of receiving that abundance. And it's not until you can see it that you're able to see it and seize it. You've got to be able to see the abundance to be able to seize it. And you're not going to see it if you don't believe it exists. So all of these neural pathways that have us focused on what's not happening, what's not enough, and it starts with everything you're consuming. If you're watching the news, it's based off of fear, and it's based off of getting you to see all of the things going wrong, because the majority of the headlines are fear-based, because that's what people are addicted to, and it's what keeps them continuing to watch. So start to monitor and limit what your intakes are that are negative, fear, and scarcity based, because that doesn't serve you. And focusing on economics and the layoffs and what's going wrong also doesn't serve you, because regardless of the market, you still have the ability to create an abundance of opportunity. And if you choose to believe you don't, then that's a choice as well. But that story and that belief system drives your motivation and your decisions, which ultimately fulfills that outcome. So there's so many millionaires that are created during down markets and recessions, because that's where the opportunity lies. When there's disruption, there's change, there's a new shift in the power dynamic, there's new markets coming in, there's new people coming in to do it differently. People are looking for change, they're looking for something different. And so when you start to change the story that disruption is opportunity, now you're moving out of that scarcity fear base to where you're in survive, and you're moving into thrive. And it's a decision consciously that you got to make thousands of times a day. You're either choosing abundance, where I have everything I need, everything is working out for me. I know that I am so grateful for everything I have that's mine and what's coming to me, versus it's not happening, I'm scared, I don't have what I need. What if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And you start to future piece that scarcity and project it into the future. And you end up creating that in your life through your decisions, because you're constantly operating off of fear. And so when you create a life that's operated off of fear, you never really create a life that's truly aligned with your values, because you're operating off survival and you continue to stay in that pattern of reactivity. And when you're reactive, you're not consciously creating your life with intention, and you continue to repeat the same cycles over and over and over again. So being able to build these new neural pathways based off the frequency of abundance and having everything you need, that serves you to create more abundance in your life. And so I want to leave you with a couple practices that are really helpful to creating and conditioning an abundance mindset. Because listen, it's not something that you just live into. I come from a deep family line of poverty and scarcity and competition. And it's the culture that I've had to move out of. And I've been working on this programming for a decade, but it's so simple. Our subconscious is not a logical muscle inside of us. It's really emotional. So when you're conditioning your subconscious, which is running the ship 95% of the time, when you're conditioning that subconscious, you can get it to move mountains for you. You can get it to really work for you instead of against you, but you have to prime it and condition it just like the gym. And so one of the key practices is a daily gratitude journal. So writing 3 things that you're grateful for, and then writing 3 things that you are celebrating wins. Now, this works for a couple of reasons, and it's something that a lot of people overlook, the power of journaling and writing your thoughts, because it takes our brain 15 seconds to register a positive thought. And when you get to that point where you've registered the thought, now you're changing your emotional state. And at that point, once you've changed your emotional state, now you're conditioning and programming your subconscious mind and really building a new neural pathway. And then the second thing is when you're focused on the wins and you're focused on what is happening and you're focused on the progress. So many of us are so critical on what we didn't get done. There's always more that we didn't accomplish. There's always more work that should have been achieved. Instead, if we could start to shift that focal point to what we did accomplish and feeding our certainty, feeding our progress, feeding our self-respect and self-honor of that journey, and focusing on the wins creates more wins. Focusing on losing lowers our motivation. We think it's accountability. Yeah, that's great to take ownership and want to get better and continue to evolve. But at the same time, if you're constantly just critical and it's never enough, you're really creating this pressure cooker environment that just drains you and burns you out, because you're doing it to reach some destination of perfection that is never achievable. And that's when you lose the fire, the purpose, the motivation, and the drive. So these are 3 things I still do all the time, writing 3 things I'm grateful for and 3 wins. And this has built not only an abundance mindset, but it's helped me to help others be the mirror of what is happening and offer out that energy to everyone that desperately needs it, that's operating off not enough and doom and gloom every day. The next thing I like to do is visualization. And visualization is based off an emotional state you want to really build inside yourself, because our brain, our subconscious doesn't know the difference between an event that was felt versus an event that actually happened. So once you start to break those thresholds and see yourself and feel yourself is already breaking through, your subconscious starts to go to work as if it's already done instead of resisting you. So for example, start to ask new questions that create new images, new visions. Start to think about what would excite me. Most people set goals that don't set their soul on fire, that don't get them lit up. They set goals that feel practical, and that doesn't move them emotionally. It doesn't get them committed because their fear and their excuses and their circumstances are bigger than their vision. So you need a big purpose and a vision to get you ignited. And you can sit with this question over and over again. What would excite me? Because I guarantee you haven't asked that question. The questions we typically ask are, what should I do? Not what do I want? What should I do? What do other people expect of me, right? And then what is practical, or what can I get? It's not what would excite me. So it's very often that we're stretching our mind, stretching that vision, and allowing ourselves to go beyond our limits of our mind or what we've experienced in the past. When you start to allow yourself to see new things and allow new experiences and a new thoughts and a new vision and a bigger goal, and start to expand that comfort zone, now you're moving into abundance. And like I said, when you can really start to sit with these visions and condition your mind to allow yourself to dream again, allow yourself to visualize, allow yourself to expand. There's a reason why just visualizing for 5 minutes a day is one of the top habits of billionaires. It's because it's conditioning them. It's igniting that drive. It's igniting that energy and tapping into that abundance. And so these are practices that you can continue to use to start to condition your mind and start to expand beyond what you think is possible. Because again, we've got to remember at any one point in time in your day, you're either choosing abundance or you're choosing scarcity. And when you start to condition to focus on the wins, the celebrations, what you are grateful for, loving all that you have, you start to create more of that, because that's when you don't need it. And energy is real. So you cannot create abundance from a mindset of scarcity. So I really hope this helps. I hope this inspires you to really dig deep on your mindset. And this is exactly the type of work we do every day at my company, Career Evolve. We're helping to reprogram people's mindsets so they can break through and start to really see themselves at their highest potential, because how you see yourself, how you see the world, your worldview is shaping every decision that's creating your life. So I hope this was helpful. Please share this with anybody that could use it. There's so many people out there that could benefit from moving out of that scarcity mindset into a mindset of abundance. Thank you. And we'll see you next week.